I feel pretty confident in now all of them. We know RFK has gone through committee. That is a good sign. As Will said, sometimes the people that are on these committees are the ones that could be the holdouts. I thought if RFK made it through, to be honest, I thought Kash was going to 100% going to make it through. And I felt pretty good about Tulsi once that happened this morning. So I do think that you will see all three of them confirmed. Again, it still doesn't mean the pressure's not on. So I encourage you still, sign that petition, get involved, call your offices, 1-800-684-3110 to get your voice heard on the air today, because it's not over. I don't want you to hear our positivity and think that there's not a chance that this doesn't go the way we think it's going to go. Obviously, it's politics, it's Washington, D.C., it's dirty. It's sometimes very gross and disturbing. So sometimes, even if you feel it's going a certain way, I mean, look, J.D. Vance had to come in to be the tiebreaker vote for Pete Hegseth. We thought that if you looked at the votes first, it looked like it wasn't going to be necessary. Last second, it was necessary, and he had to come and do that. So all bets are off in that sense, where you never know whose interests are at heart.
And I would also say that vote this morning was a good sign that both the administration and the American people and organizations like ours are having a positive effect, because RFK Jr., there was a holdout that many people did not think would vote for him, because Senator Bill Cassidy, who is on that finance panel that voted this morning, had actually big issues with RFK Jr., because Senator Cassidy has been a medical doctor for over 30 years before becoming a U.S. senator. And he put out right before the vote, though, I had a very intense conversations with Bobby and the White House over the weekend and even this morning. I want to thank Vice President J.D. specifically for his honest counsel. With the serious commitments I've received from the administration and the opportunity to make progress on the issues we agree on, like healthy foods and pro-American agenda, I will vote yes. That could have been the one holdout that could have claimed his laurels as a doctor, that I don't agree with some of the things that Bobby Kennedy may agree with, that he could have sunk that nomination and may have even had, to some degree, a little bit more clout from his credentials than just I don't agree with a policy position. But in the end, he flipped to a yes. Bobby Kennedy will move on to a floor vote sometime in the near future after cloture's invoked and those things we've talked about. But I feel very good about his chances.
I do too. I think it's happening.
I think Kash, he nailed that hearing. And you're hearing almost no criticism from the right on how Kash has handled himself. I think that he will actually sail through pretty easily.
I mean, Kash Patel, honestly, most of what I knew him from was the last few years, sort of his Rumble persona, I would say.
Right.
So I was like, man, let's see how he does in this. I mean, he can be pretty fiery. Let's see what this dude does. And he came up there and he nailed it, was very professional, came off like a balanced, level-headed guy. And I think he's going to sail through without a problem. I could see the same now happening. Now, RFK, again, sail through without a problem. What does that mean? You win by a one vote? You win by J.D. Vance coming and confirming you? That, oddly, in this time of day, this time of Washington, D.C., that is the norm. That's almost a landslide. It's real sad, because these people should all be judged on their qualifications, not whether you agree on them. There are things that RFK says that I agree with. There are things he says I do not agree with. I probably put that for all of them. Even Tulsi, our friend and colleague, I'm sure there are positions that we hold differently. But if I was up there voting for her and I looked at, her CV and said, oh, do you think she's qualified for this? I think so. I don't even think that should be a question. Let's quickly take Tim, who's calling in Tennessee. Go ahead.
What do we do if Kennedy is not accepted by the Senate? Do we have a backup candidate?
There certainly will be other people to put in place, but it doesn't feel like that's going to happen.
Right. Right now, it's a very good sign for his confirmation. Him being voted out of committee favorably is a great sign. He's got momentum, and it doesn't seem like this nomination is going to fail at the full floor vote. So that's a very good thing, Tim. If it were to happen, then yes, President Trump would have to go back to the drawing board.
It's like he did with Matt Gaetz.
Put someone else as the next Director of Health and Human Services.
All right, listen, we got
new hearings, the whole deal.
Let's continue on with some more calls. Susan in Arizona, you're on the air.
Hi, I just wanted to encourage your listeners to listen to the Senate hearings in full. I know that they are a little long, but it was amazing. This is the first year I've ever done that, and it was amazing, the information you actually got. And I would just encourage your listeners to do the same.
That's a good thought, Susan. For Tulsi's, we actually played a lot of it live while it was happening. Same with, we even did that for the inauguration, because I think there's a lot of times people are busy. they haven't had the opportunity to do this, or honestly, they haven't known to care. But Susan, as you said, this is the first time you've done it. It is important to watch them. It's important to get engaged because, look, some of the questions, like I said, half of them are going to be actual questions you probably would like to know the answer to. Then half of them may be gotcha political questions.
Well, and also what the news often shows is the shorter clips.
The controversial ones.
The back and forth, the controversial ones. But what you'll also see is the nominee and the senators having very good back and forth discussions in many cases. Now, sometimes, especially if it's from an opposing party, you don't get that. I believe it was in RFK Jr.'s confirmation hearing in the Finance Committee. Sheldon Whitehouse, Democrat from Rhode Island, told him, I don't have really any questions for you, so you're just going to have to listen to me for my 5 minutes. And he gave a speech for 5 minutes. Felt it was a little disingenuous. They happened to have been law school roommates. So a little interesting there that he was just going to lecture him for that.
Yeah.
But as you like to say, politics is professional wrestling, and it's all kayfabe.
And they all know what's going on. But I wish he would have lectured him on specifically things that annoyed him as his roommate.
Like you couldn't wash the dishes. I mean, you just left them in the sink for 3 weeks.
We know you don't like single-use plastic.
Right.
So why didn't you wash the dishes? You brought in incense. Come on, man. It smells up the whole hallways.
You had so many artificial dyes, and yet now you're talking about no artificial dyes. What is going on?
Yeah, what's happening here? You love Fruit Loops. Let's go ahead and continue on. Randy in Ohio. Go ahead, Randy.
Yeah, I just wondered, it says to advise and consent. How do they have a legal standing to even deny a nominee?
Yeah, Randy, we've answered this question before, and I think Will knows the answer.
Well, it is that word consent.
Yeah, that's the whole deal.
If it were just advise, then that would be one thing, but they have to give the consent for an individual to be confirmed. This has been since the beginning of the Constitution. This isn't a new thing that all of a sudden senators have this power. This has been the entire history of the United States. And you can even go back and look up historical cabinet members that did not get the vote from the Senate back in our early history. So it's not as if all of a sudden they've been given this power in the modern era. This is something, advice and consent is in the Constitution, and therefore it is a constitutional method. It is a system of checks and balances as well. The founders put in these different mechanisms for there to be oversight over the other branches so that one didn't become more powerful than the other. They are co-equal branches of government. So that's the long and short of it.